Jasmine Crockett or Maxine Waters or Chuck Schumer or AOC or Bernie Sanders, all of these bastards call us fascists with a straight face. This isn't New Testament, turn the other cheek time. This is Old Testament.
You see, this brother right here says, well, all leftists want to see me dead. Well, I'm a leftist. I don't want to see you dead. I'm a Christian.
You called Trump's administration a neo-fascist movement, you lunatic.
And look at him laughing now. It's a joke, man. Pierce, it's not worth it.
Kind of farcical to quit a debate where we're literally debating about the importance of free speech. Do you think that your response to the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk has been appropriate?
Yes.
Why did you mock his widow?
Because she's being used as a political weapon right now.
Wow.
Shut
up, Destiny.
Holy
Shut up.
You're so
Shut
shameless,
up.
dude.
From the sick, gleeful celebrations of his murder to the open talk of vengeance and civil war, the assassination of Charlie Kirk has so far been anything but a unifying moment. Kirk's death was invoked by organisers of Saturday's Unite the Kingdom march in London, a mass anti-immigration protest which may have been the biggest this country's ever seen. Elon Musk appeared on screen to say this.
Whether you choose violence or not, violence is coming to you. You either fight back or you die. You either fight back or you die. And that's the truth.
Today, Elon, I think the British public are telling the world that they're ready to fight back.
Good. Yes.
Come on.
Well, many of those cheering protesters will have travelled to Saturday's rally with the words of Charlie Kirk's widow, Erica, ringing in their ears.
If you thought that my husband's mission was powerful before, you have no idea. You have no idea what you just have unleashed across this entire country and this world. You have no idea. You have no idea the fire that you have ignited within this wife. The cries of this widow will echo around the world like a battle cry.
It's not for me or anybody else to judge how a bereaved wife and mother grieves. Nobody can blame her for being angry and distraught. But it's fair to say that for many, her words only compounded a sense of righteous fury and of us versus them. There are two powerful narratives in direct conflict right now, both in the UK and the US. One side sees an existential fight against the erosion of their culture and their values by people who revile both. The other can only see intolerance and bigotry. As always, the truth is probably on a middle ground that's very rapidly collapsing. But so too is the moral high ground of those on the left who cling to the idea that hatred and division are only conservative problems. Rabble-rousing rapper Bob Vylan smeared Charlie Kirk at a gig this weekend and then issued a cowardly denial.
Yo, real quick. At no point during yesterday's show was Charlie Kirk's death celebrated. At no point whatsoever.
I want to dedicate this next one to an absolute piece of shit of a human being. The pronouns was, were.
I did call him a piece of shit, that much is true, but at no point was his death celebrated. If it was, go find me a quote.
Because if you chat shit, you will get banned! Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk, you piece of shit!
Shameful and pathetic, and it turned out a shocking liar too. We all saw very clearly what Vylan said and did. Now, he doesn't even have the balls to stand by it. People like Bob Vylan want you to believe that they are the good guys who only want peace and compromise. The fact is, they're as much to blame for this precarious state of division as the very people they think they're so much better than. In a moment, we'll debate all this with a stellar panel. We'll begin with Peter Navarro, President Trump's senior counselor for trade, and also the new book, I Went to Prison, So You Won't Have to. Peter Navarro, thank you very much indeed for joining me on Uncensored. When you hear a rapper, it's good to have you, albeit in a shocking week, frankly. The last 7 days, I think, have shocked everybody. When you see a rap star brazenly celebrating the death of Charlie Kirk and then pretending that he hadn't, what does that tell you about some of the reaction to his death?
accessory after the fact in the case of him. Here's the thing, Piers, and this is what's so disturbing. I want people around the world to understand that this is not a symmetric war, left versus right. There's a disturbing trend towards asymmetries in terms of what happened. Now, you think about this horrible, horrible assassination of Charlie Kirk. That's one in a series, and the worst in the series, but it's just one in a series of attacks on the right by the left, going back to the ascendance of Donald Trump in 2016. And let me break that down for you. I was in the White House for 4 years during the Trump term. I was one of only 2 other people who served the president the whole time. Piers, and virtually every person at the senior level I served with was a target in the ensuing years by the left. Myself, Steve Bannon, went to prison defending the Constitution. Both of us were sent. Everyone involved in sending us to prison was a Democrat. You had 4 attempts in different courtrooms to put Donald Trump in prison, interfere with his election, and 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump. You have Charlie Kirk murdered in cold blood, and then others. I was here, 9/11 is a very sacred day for us here. I'm in New York City. I came up for the reading of the names of the people who perished in that horrible attack. And Rudy Giuliani was sitting there in the front row in front of me. He had just been in a terrible accident. His T9 thoracic spine was crushed, but he was there. And the left has bankrupted America's Mayor Rudy Giuliani. They've taken away the bar cards of Jeff Clark and John Eastman. And even people who weren't put into prison are spending millions of dollars. So the asymmetry, my point here is that there's this asymmetry. And now the left wants to do kumbaya and come in the middle and all this consensus stuff. And my message to them, it's why I wrote this book. It's a warning that we must hold these people accountable through legal means, or Piers, they'll do it again. They'll do it again and again and again. And you just listen to Jasmine Crockett or Maxine Waters or Chuck Schumer or AOC or Bernie Sanders. All of these bastards call us fascists with a straight face when they're shooting at us, putting us in prison, and using the American justice system and politicians in black robes to do all sorts of damage to us. And that's the state of play here, Piers. And if you've got a better solution than holding these people accountable so they won't do it again, I'd love to hear it. Because this isn't New Testament turn the other cheek time. This is Old Testament legal justice, not lawfare justice.
Is there a danger, I don't disagree with a lot of what you've said, but is there a danger that in some of the rhetoric that is now being used by your side, and it's a wide side with many different types of people on it, but when you hear Elon Musk, for example, talking about the need to fight back against violence, which many have taken to mean be violent as well, what do you feel about the tone that should be deployed? You've been very careful to say there you think it should be done legally, but others are ramping up the rhetoric to imply that the only way to deal with violence is potentially to use violence themselves. US national debt is more than $37 trillion, and these are uncertain times for the global economy. It's enough to make you think. Maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold. Whether it's a hedge against inflation, peace of mind during global instability, or just sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes that every American should own physical gold, and they created something special. Until the 30th of September, if you're a first-time buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To start the process, request a free information kit now. Just text PEERS, P-I-E-R-S, to 989898. Make right now your first time to buy gold and take advantage of a rebate of up to $10,000 when you buy before the end of September. Text my name, PEERS, to 989898. Claim your eligibility and get your free information pack. Again, just text PEERS to 989898.
Well, a couple of things to say. I think it's extremely important for people to measure their words. I mean, I'm seeing now coverage on the left of this, and as they call for kumbaya and things like that, and mourn the loss of Charlie Kirk, there's always a but. There's always a but, whether it's the New York Times or some rapper or anything in between. As soon as you put that but in there, that's a signal to the left that it's okay to kill people. It's subtle, but it's a signal. So we've got to be very careful there. Now, to Mr. Musk, Elon, come on, let's get real, brother. X is the biggest cesspool of violent rhetoric in the country other than Facebook. And if you want to make a real contribution, Elon, clean that damn thing up. And I'll tell you, Piers, here's what should be done on X and Facebook and everywhere else. No more anonymity, no more hiding behind the mask of anonymity on social media. You have to respect the idea that if you won't say something to somebody's face in a civil setting, then you damn well shouldn't be allowed to say it on X or Facebook or Instagram. And right now, the toxicity level of social media is beyond the pale. And it's not just people in this country who are spewing that. It's like foreigners are swarming right now our social media, propagandizing. So Elon, there's a project for you, brother. Get us to Mars, clean up social media. I don't know which one's harder for you, Elon, but do them both.
The governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, has described social media as a cancer, that it has the same impact on society as a cancer. And he's explained that in his eyes, it's very addictive and very toxic, and behaves like a disease. Would you go along with that?
No, he's wrong. It's Ebola. It kills. We've seen it. It's like, I mean, look, that assassin. Let's think about this. He's 22 years old. Where was his worldview formed? Gaming, where he's like virtually killing tens of thousands of people in his life on these violent games, and listening to social media. And look, remember what he said on his bullets, fascist. Who said that? Bernie Sanders, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Maxine Waters, Chuck Schumer, like Supreme Court Justice Kavanaugh winds up having somebody come to his home to try to kill him after Chuck Schumer encouraged that. So I want to get back to this idea. I want Piers, like, I literally went to prison, okay, for defending the constitutional separation of powers. I got a subpoena from an illegally formed Democrat committee formed by Nancy Pelosi out for a witch hunt on Donald Trump. For 50 years, the Department of Justice said clearly, senior White House advisors like me should not honor a congressional subpoena because of a concept known as executive privilege. That's the idea that confidential communications between advisors like me and a president are protected by executive privilege, which is something that goes back to George Washington. And I wind up going through a process where a Democrat majority by straight party lines in the House holds me in contempt. It goes to a Justice Department run by Democrats, Merrick Garland on down, and it's a misdemeanor, Piers, mind you, and rather than simply call me up and say, hey, self-surrender, they do a circus raid with 5 armed FBI agents. They take down me and my fiance, who's on the cover here. They perp walk her, tell CNN in advance that it's going to happen. They make it a big spectacle. And the agent, Walter Giardina, who put me in charge, turns out to be the same guy who greenlit the Steele dossier against President Trump, which was fake. He said it was real, allegedly, whistleblowers. And that spawned the whole Russia hoax. And then Piers, you can't make this up. I go to court thinking, well, look, I did what I was supposed to do. I'll be able to argue that in court. No. The judge, Ahmed Maida, said, nope, you can't argue that. I had no defense by the time I got into trial. And then the District of Columbia, I don't know if you know this, Piers, but it voted, I think it was 92% for Joe Biden. It's the bluest of blue places in America. The jury pool's drawn from that. The judge allowed anti-Trump people on the jury. They convicted me. And then rather than let me, again, you can't make this up, rather than let me be free pending appeal, which is always the case in these kind of cases, they denied me that. And so I spent 4 months in a Miami prison. I was there, get this, Piers, the director of the Bureau of Prisons kept me there 42 days longer than the law provides because she could, a Democrat. My case is under appeal. It's going to the Supreme Court. It's like a sleepy case, but it's a landmark constitutional case. And if I lose that case, Piers, every single senior White House advisor going forward, regardless of party, Democrat or Republican, will face the same kind of choice that I had to face, which is honor my oath of office, do my duty, respect executive privilege, risk prison, and wind up in prison as it would turn out, or bend the knee to a Congress which was simply trying to engineer an interference with the election and to try to put Donald Trump in prison. That's what American politics has come down to, sir.
Yeah, I just think
it's shameful, it's wrong, and it's becoming more violent.
Yeah, I think the politicization of the law by everybody, actually, in politics, wherever you are, is just so dangerous because ultimately that is not what the law is supposed to be there for. It's not supposed to be used as a political tool against your opponents. Peter Navarro, it's a fascinating book. I went to prison so you won't have to, but I also found what you said about the Charlie Kirk murder fascinating and interesting what Elon Musk will say in response to what you said about what he should do with X. So thank you very much indeed for joining me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate the time, Piers.
Well, join me to discuss that and the wider issue of the Charlie Kirk murder, the host of The Crucible, Andrew Wilson, host and executive producer of The Young Turks, Ana Kasparian, the professor, philosopher and activist, Dr. Cornel West. And I'll start with Jack Posobiec, who's the senior editor at Human Events and a close friend of Charlie Kirk. Well, Jack, good to have you on Uncensored. My deepest sympathies to you as one of Charlie's many friends. Absolutely horrific murder, cold blood execution. And we're now seeing all the fallout from this. What is your view of the reaction to what has happened with Charlie Kirk? I played at the start of this a rapper brazenly celebrating his death, then lying about celebrating it. But there's been so much of that. What do you feel about that? Today's show is brought to you by Oxford Natural, makers of the Optimum Day and Optimum Night all-natural supplements. Thousands of Brits and Americans are already taking them with incredible results. Optimum Day is designed to boost your energy and support weight loss throughout the day. Optimum Night helps you relax and get deep, refreshing sleep. And don't just take their word for it. Here are just a few of their success stories. England football legend Michael Owen lost 40 pounds. Robbie, the face of AFTV, dropped over 100 pounds. Linda, a top law firm executive, lost 50 pounds. And Anita, an immigration lawyer, shed 60 pounds. To watch their full stories and find out more, scan the QR code on your screen or visit oxfordnatural.com/peers. And here's the best part. Use the code PEERS, P-I-E-R-S, and get 70% off your first order. Get 70% off with the promo code PEERS.
Yeah, well, Piers, thanks for having me on again. And, you know, I don't even know how to put it in words. I wake up on Wednesday, routine day, Charlie's going to campus, I'm covering the show. And then minutes later, I get footage of my friend getting murdered on live TV. And then I wake up the next day and I see thousands of people celebrating it and cheering it. And here's a concert hall full of people clapping and laughing, and a rapper, cheering it on. And we've got a big problem, Piers. We've got a big problem where people have just, I feel like they've lost their humanity. I think that they've lost humanity, and they've lost sight of and been totally dissociated with humanity and with reality. And I think there's some kind of social, spiritual cancer that's going on, to take someone who is a young man, who's a husband, who's a father of 2 young children. I saw the family this weekend, and just because of social media, or you think someone's just an influencer, just someone to disagree with, that I can get away from them. Well, it's not that. It's a real person. We're all real people, and I think we've all lost sight of that.
Has it made you more concerned about your own safety? You're a high-profile conservative. You're out there, you're doing events, you're talking. How do you feel? A lot of people must be asking themselves this question: what now, in terms of your security and so on?
Well, Piers, look, there are people who did this. This was an evil act. This was not an accident. And obviously, we need to be secure. Every event going forward, we need to make sure that there is pure security. Obviously, the question of outside events is something that's going to have to be discussed and considered, whether or not we can properly secure that, not just for those of us who might be on the microphone, but the people and the students and employees and staff who are going to be at these events, and even just regular students on campus. I mean, campus security, or all security. But the problem is that we've entered into a very dark place, and I fear that until we really start to deal with this cancer that's been metastasized throughout our society, we're still going to be living with this threat.
When Elon Musk addressed this very large crowd in London on Saturday, and said that the only way to respond to this violence from the left is to fight back, many have interpreted that to mean, if need be, violently. Do you feel that is ratcheting up the rhetoric too far, or do you think he meant something else?
I didn't hear all of Elon's speech. I've been dealing with other things this weekend. But look, in terms of fighting back, obviously, I think that we need to continue Charlie's mission, fight the way that Charlie fought, do politics the right way, fight with our words, fight with our ideals, fight with dialogue, with speech. I've always stood for freedom of speech. Charlie always stood for freedom of speech. And when it comes to anyone who is perpetuating, though, this cancerous ideology And of course, that is perpetuating violence and excusing or encouraging violent ends, then that would cross the barrier, I would say, into law enforcement, and having law enforcement action, local, state, federal, whatever the appropriate manner would be under color of law, would be, of course, to try to prevent and intervene before one of these horrific acts once again takes place. And of course, we heard FBI director come out this morning and say that there were people who were discussing this in the open even before it took place. Obviously, all of that has to be investigated. But Piers, in the United States, we used to have a huge problem of serial killers and other behavioral issues in society that we dealt with from a national standpoint. And I think we need to really step back, have that conversation, and figure out what the right national, federal response is going to be.
Anna Kasperin, what was your immediate reaction when you heard about what had happened to Charlie Kirk, and presumably at some stage saw the video?
Well, it started with absolute shock, followed by despair, followed by fear of what this means for the country and how things could potentially and very likely devolve further. You know, Charlie and I had multiple debates and conversations, and what I really appreciated about Charlie, and I've said this multiple times, was that even though we had disagreements, he had a huge platform and was inviting to people like me to make my case to a completely different audience about my point of view, why I believe things that I believe. And that's what is supposed to make America great. The ability to live in a pluralistic society where people have differences of opinion but can engage with one another in good faith and make their case. You know, I was recently on Tucker Carlson's show for a pretty lengthy interview, and after that interview ended, Tucker Carlson let me know that Charlie Kirk reached out to him and said that he loved the interview and would like to have me on his show. That's the kind of person Charlie Kirk was. Now, that's not to take away from the things that I vehemently disagreed with him on, but engaging in violence is an act of cowardice. It's what losers do. It's what people who are unable to articulate their arguments effectively resort to. That's my take on what happened to Charlie Kirk. And I have to say, the video of him getting killed was one of the most disgusting, horrific things I've seen, and I can't get that image out of my mind. It's seared in my mind.
Thank you for saying what you just said. Very clear. What has been truly shocking to me, not just the murder itself, which was obviously just horrific, as was the video. And I agree, it's very hard to ever lose that image of what happened. But the reaction from young people in particular on the left, I have to say, I have found absolutely sickening. The glee, the celebration, the TikToks, the general, the behavior of this rap band, Bob Vylan, and then the lying about the fact they were clearly celebrating in the most despicable manner what had happened to Charlie Kirk. You know, I've got no problem with people appraising Charlie Kirk's record and criticizing him where they feel he was wrong about stuff. That's fine. That happens to every public figure when they die. But to gleefully celebrate the cold-blooded execution of a 31-year-old father of two, I just found crossed every line of humanity. And I guess, Anna, you know, a lot of these young people, you've met a lot of these young people on the left. What is going on with young people on the left? And I'm not for a moment saying there aren't young people on the right that have similar mindsets about their opponents. But what is going on with these young people on the woke left who genuinely look at that and think this is something to celebrate? Hello and welcome. We begin with some breaking news. Woke is dead. The war on common sense is officially over. Cancelled celebrities are emerging from Twitter jail. Virtue signaling has been outlawed under punishment of mass ridicule. And we are finally free to call a spade a spade. So what was the cause of death? How did the silenced majority finally win? And what exactly is going to take its place? Woke is dead is my definitive story on the rise and fall of woke. as well as the common sense heroes and PC villains who have dominated news and culture across 10 years of madness. It's also my personal roadmap back to a less divided world. A world where we can agree to disagree, where debate triumphs over censorship, and where common sense is king. You will be shocked by how much you agree with me.
Well, I'm going to answer the question, but let me just note that there are different factions on the left. And I think the way that this is kind of being discussed in a way that just kind of generalizes everyone on the left is kind of unfair. But putting that aside, I do think that we have an overall problem. I think what happened is a symptom of a bigger issue that we have, not just in this country, but I'm seeing it happen globally, where there's just this dehumanization of people based on their political views. And on top of that, the devaluing of human life, right? I mean, we've been seeing images of people being butchered, children being butchered endlessly on social media over the last nearly 2 years. Prior to that, I mean, the rhetoric that devalues human life, I think, has played a role into it. But also, I just think that there's this dumb idea that all you need to do is like get rid of or take out some of the prominent figures on the political side of the aisle that you disagree with, and that'll somehow solve the issue. No, that doesn't solve the issue. What it does is it makes the situation in various countries where this type of political violence plays out far worse. Now you're hearing talk of retaliation in a violent way. When it comes to the Trump administration, you're hearing, policies that are being proposed that would limit the legitimate political speech of Americans. I am concerned about that. What that disgusting murderer did is he pushed for this country to devolve further. And I wish that cooler heads would prevail, but at the same time, I don't begrudge people who are angry. I mean, that poor wife and her 2 children witnessed Charlie Kirk get shot and killed in the neck. I don't begrudge her at all for being furious. No. I can't even imagine where my headspace would be at right now if that happened to my husband.
Right. Andrew Wilson, where were you when you heard about Charlie Kirk, and what is your view of the fallout from this?
Yeah, I was sitting with my wife watching TV. So the thing is I remember this picture circulating around of Charlie Kirk. He was debating the incoming president of the Oxford Union. And they were all smiles and handshakes. And, by the next day, this guy was saying the most insane rhetoric about how he basically had it coming. So how many of these leftists have murderous intent? When we show up to have a conversation with them. We show up to debate our views. We show up to in some way engage with them. How many of them have seething murderous intent behind their eyes, and they don't really want to do any of that? They really want you dead. And that is the biggest demonstration of that, by the way, in that one single picture. You have Anna Kasparian here, and she's talking about this. The Young Turks called Charlie Kirk a fascist how many times? The Young Turks played into this rhetoric how much? They went out of their way to do so. Rubin recently called him out for doing it. So I just don't. Hang on.
I've literally never. I don't even call Trump a fascist.
I didn't interrupt you once, lady.
But you can't make things up about what I've said about Charlie Kirk.
You can talk when I'm done talking, like I was respectful enough to let you do. So the thing is like, yes, they do. This network does do that, and these leftists do that. And they set all the rhetoric up in the world to make sure something like this happened, and they were dancing on the grave of this guy before he was even cold. I have tweets from Destiny which are insane. The leftists have gone off the reservation. And it's time for us to stop pretending that it's not their rhetoric which is leading to these types of assassinations, because it is. I don't want to hear about factions. All of you guys are doing this. All of you guys have the same type of rhetoric which leads to this, or the networks you work for do.
Well, Anna, let me let you respond to that before I bring Cornell in.
I have never called Charlie Kirk a fascist, number one. In fact, if anything, we have received a tremendous amount. I don't remember Trump. I don't remember Cenk calling Charlie Kirk a fascist. In fact, Cenk and I got into a debate about whether or not, hold on. I don't remember Cenk calling Charlie Kirk a fascist. He called Trump a fascist, and he and I got into a debate about that. But to lump in everyone on the left together, I don't agree with Destiny on anything these days. Destiny is totally unhinged in his rhetoric, 100%. I have been critical of Charlie Kirk's political views, but going around referring to people as Nazis, turning the temperature up, I did not engage in that. So I just want you to at least be fair about what I've actually said about Charlie
There's no
Kirk.
actual reason for us to believe leftists at this point. It's very clear that while they come out with a handshake and wanting to have these conversations, they claim, right? In reality, what they're doing is they have murderous intent, and they'll celebrate you the day that you die. The next day, they'll go after your wife. Thousands of social media accounts going after her wife, or this guy's wife, after she made a speech about her poor husband. Yes, it is your side that's doing that. Like it or not, it's your side that's doing that. There's no equivalency between the right and the left on this. Yeah, okay, fine. You're not a leftist. I'm sorry. Are you on the left wing? Are you a Democrat? Are you more of a Democrat than you are a Republican? Do you move towards those types of issues?
I'm not a Democrat. I actually registered as an independent.
Fine. You register as an independent.
Come on, you gotta at least know what my views are if you're going to attack me.
All right, let me bring in. All right, let me bring in.
I've been attacked by the left over the last 3 years.
All right, let me bring in.
No.
Look.
I've been attacked by the left. No, let me just at least address that. I've been attacked viciously by leftists over the last 3 years because of the fact that I want to engage in this type of dialogue, because of the fact I was willing to sit down with Charlie Kirk and with Tucker Carlson and Ben Shapiro. I'm willing to have conversations, and I don't go around labeling people as fascist and racist and Nazis just because I disagree with them.
Just the organization you work for does?
At least understand what my political views are. Listen, I'm not going to be blamed for what everyone in that company has to say. Anyone in that company has to say. I'm an individual.
The head of that company?
We are supposed to judge people based on individuals. He did not go around calling Charlie Kirk a fascist and a Nazi.
Saying that you don't have good reasoning skills. If it's the case that you think, oh my God,
I'm judging
you can't be calling people
so
Nazis. You can't be calling people Nazis while your boss does all the time.
Why are you making that up? You're just making it up. You're just making it up.
We're
all the same. That's how simple-minded you are. You're all the same. Okay, then everyone on the right is just like Dylan Roof.
All right. Let me bring in. I want to bring in Cornel West. I want to bring in Cornel West. I want to bring in Cornel. He's been waiting.
Shut up,
please let Cornel come in now. He's been waiting very patiently. Cornel, welcome back to Uncensored, where things are getting incendiary quite quickly. I think the overriding point I would make about the debate we've just been hearing between Andrew and Anna is that there is little doubt to me that the constant rhetoric on the left, the woke left, let me be specific to where I think a lot of the blame lies, ever since Donald Trump came into power in 2016, has been this relentless use of the phrases Hitler, Nazis, fascists about Trump and about Trump supporters. And the problem with constantly saying this as a group, as the woke left have done for 9 years now, is that eventually it permeates down to young, impressionable minds who genuinely believe that it is their mission to stop America from being taken over by the new Nazis or the new fascists or the new Hitler. And that leads to the kind of thing we saw with Charlie Kirk. Do you agree that this language, this relentless, in my view, woeful misuse, particularly of the word Nazi, towards Trump and his supporters, this is part of the problem?
Well, I think part of the deeper problem, though, Brother Pierce, is that the organized greed and weaponized hatred and routinized indifference toward the vulnerable has come together in such a way that it has eroded the sources of character formation, so that integrity, honesty, decency, and self-critical sensibilities of individuals and groups is more and more disappearing. So you end up with because hatred itself is promiscuous, just like greed, just like indifference toward the suffering of others. It's promiscuous. It will lie with the left, right, center. It lies with Christians. It lies with Muslims. It lies with Jews. It lies with Buddhists. It lies with Hindus. And human beings were so wretched in the first place. If we don't undergo some kind of spiritual and moral cultivation, we end up falling back on greed and hatred and indifference. And I mean, the American empire at this moment is one in which the lethal combination of the hatred and the greed and the indifference generates very much the exchange that we just saw. You see, this brother right here says, well, all leftists want to see me dead. Well, I'm a leftist. I don't want to see you dead. I'm a Christian.
You called Trump's administration a neo-fascist movement, you lunatic. You people have gone out
You're
of your
absolutely
way.
right.
You have gone out of your way.
Let me make the
to
case.
do everything
Let me
possible
make
to
the
cultivate
case.
this.
Let me make the case.
Oh, yeah,
Will you
just
allow
made
me to
your
speak,
case.
brother?
You
Come
just
on, man.
made your
Come on.
case.
No, you haven't made the case. If you think I've made the case, then you're not interested in dialogue.
You just said this brother
different
over
than
here
Charlie.
said
You
this.
very,
You
very
called him
different than brother Charlie, man.
neo-fascist. That's
You're
what you
very
called him,
different than Charlie, though, man. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
and I can
it's
make
your
the
rhetoric
case
due
for
to
that,
people
too.
like you that got that man killed, sir.
No. There are
yes.
such a thing as neo-fascists. But Pierce, why you have a brother on who's not going to allow nobody to speak, man? We're just wasting time. If all you're interested in is making your money, and you bring this brother on it, and nobody can say a word, and we can't even mourn Brother Charlie passing. I had dialogues with Brother Charlie. This brother's going to say, oh, this kumbaya and so forth. No. Charlie was made in the image of a loving and mighty God. I believe that. I say my prayers for Sister Erica and the kids because this brother wants to trash my Christian sensibility. And look at him laughing now. It's a joke, man. Pierce, it's not worth it. The
is
dialogue
Charlie
is not
Kirk
worth it.
part
Not
of the
with this
neo-fascist
brother.
movement?
Not with this brother.
Is he part of your neo-fascist
Not with
movement?
this brother.
Yeah.
When Charlie himself
away.
says that he is against Civil Rights Act, does that make him a proponent of Jim Crow? When he calls Martin Luther King Jr. an awful human being and a scumbag? I'm critical of that. I am critical of that. You're absolutely right, Brother Wilson. You're absolutely right. But if all you're going to do is be arrogant, you're arrogant just like the so-called leftists you're talking about. But Pierce, you making your money, brother. Go on and make your money, man.
It's not about making.
Not worth it.
Cornel,
this brother
it's not
right
about
here
making money.
Part of the problem. This other brother who has a deep connection to Charlie, he's willing to at least listen. But this brother's not willing to listen.
Cornel, can you sit down? I would like you to remain part of the debate.
This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. He's smoking his cigarettes with his arrogant self. Come on, man. We don't have enough dialogue at all.
Surely you're not going to walk out in a debate about dialogue.
Go on and make your money, man.
Right. Well, there's a kind of farcical to quit a debate where we're literally debating about the importance of free speech and being able to listen to each other's opinions, which seems to me completely insane. Anyway, we've lost Cornel West for now. Maybe we'll get him back. Well, Andrew Wilson referred to Destiny's insane tweets a little earlier, which were disavowed by Anna Kasparian. Well, Destiny joins us now. Destiny, you've been quite active on social media since Charlie Kirk's death. When Erica Kirk posted Charlie's coffin, you responded, she tagged him, brackets, crying face emojis. In response to Alina Haber's tweet ordering people to fly their flags at half-mast in memory of Charlie, you posted on X buying flags and poles just to fly them fully erect. And you then posted yesterday, ending every Conservative debate call out I'd do in 2026 with "Don't dodge, bro." That's not what Charlie would have wanted. I mean, do you think that your response to the cold-blooded murder of Charlie Kirk has been appropriate?
Yes. I think that the only way this country moves forward into a better world is when conservatives can finally realize that they need to turn the temperature down on their side. We are 10 years into whatever this Trump madness is, and there is not a single mainstream conservative that will call for a lowering of the temperature on their side. I think that liberals need to wake up and finally realize that if they're not willing to do it, it will never come down. If you wanted Charlie Kirk to be alive, Donald Trump shouldn't have been president for the second term. Every time he's in office, this happens. People joked about when Biden came in, it was so boring, nothing was going on. 7 out of 10 of the largest protests in American history have happened under Donald Trump. All of the recent political violence that's happened in this country over the past 20 years, the majority of it, the overwhelming majority of it, everybody gets mad because they keep asking Grok about it, has been conservative.
Who shot Charlie Kirk?
A guy from Utah who was raised in a Christian family, who was a 22-year-old
guy
white
described.
dude. He wasn't
Destiny.
trans. He
no,
didn't have
Destiny.
a trans girlfriend. He didn't have any trans influences. He didn't have any trans bullets. Yeah, I'm sorry, you guys were wrong on all of that.
To be clear, the governor of Utah, Spencer Cox, has made it clear that their investigation has now established that he had been radicalized by a leftist ideology, which drove him to do this. That's just
I'm sorry, excuse me, when?
Yesterday, he said that.
No. When was he radicalized? In the 6 months that he did remote college? Not
I don't know when he was radicalized, but I do know.
What you just said
I do
is not
know
true.
the very
No,
reasonable
that's not true.
sounding governor of Utah has made it
it's not
clear
true.
that the
he hasn't made it
you may
clear.
not want
He
to
said
hear
this is an
this.
ongoing investigation.
You may not want to
You don't
hear
wanna
it, Destiny. But the reality is, the investigators, according to the governor of Utah, have established that he was radicalized to a leftist ideology that drove him to murder Charlie Kirk. Now, let me just ask you.
That's just not true.
Let me just
There's
ask
no
you.
way to deal with it.
Okay,
You're living in
you're
a
accusing the
delusional
governor of
fantasy.
lying.
Yeah.
That's your prerogative. But if it turns out to have been somebody with a leftist ideology who wanted to shut up Charlie Kirk, would you condemn that?
I won't condemn anything until the president of the United States can go on air and say, all of us need to calm down.
So you won't condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk until Donald Trump says something.
I'm a YouTuber. Leftists and Democrats have been condemning and turning down the temperature, condemning violence, turning down the temperature for a decade. Donald Trump can't go on TV and say, all of us need to calm down.
Right.
Can you tell me why he cannot?
Why
tell
would you
his
expect
side
anybody,
to calm down?
Destiny?
You can't answer that. Can you answer that question? Why can't Trump
you
go on
answer
TV
this
and say,
question?
all of us should be less violent?
Why do you
can't
think?
Trump say that?
Why do you
Why
think?
is your behavior contingent on Donald Trump?
Insane right now.
Why do you
is
think?
your
No, let me
behavior
ask a
contingent
question.
on Donald Trump?
Let me
Why
ask
is
a
that?
question.
Because he's the president of the United States of America and the leader of the opposing political party.
Destiny. Let me
You
just.
have a huge audience of young men who
I'm a
listen to
YouTuber
everything you have to
who
say.
has more
So
young
when
men
you,
following
it
him.
doesn't
Who
matter.
has
You have a
more young-
huge
it doesn't
audience,
matter.
and because
This
of
is
the fact that
world
you have a
I'm
huge
living in,
audience,
and
you
your
have
brain
a
has been
responsibility
broken by
to
online
not turn.
rhetoric.
No,
And
it
your
hasn't.
brain
It
has
hasn't been
been
broken.
destroyed
I actually care
because
about the
people
country
bullied you
and
on
want to bring
Twitter.
people together.
If
You do the
you should tell
opposite.
Donald
You
Trump to
represent
tell
the
people
worst
to
of us,
be
Destiny.
less
You're
violent.
embarrassing.
You should tell
You're
Donald.
embarrassing.
All right, let me ask
Watch how
Destiny
easy
a
this is.
question.
Watch how easy this
No,
is.
hang on.
If
Don't
Donald
all
Trump
shout
would've
at
come out
once,
and say-
please.
If Donald Trump would have come out
Destiny,
and say, "Hey, we should all be less violent,"
Destiny,
I have no problem saying.
I have one
absolutely.
question for you,
Why
Destiny.
can't conservatives do that? Why can't conservatives do that?
Destiny, I have a question for you. Why do you think, in your campaign for everyone to dial down the temperature, why do you think that mocking the grieving widow of Charlie Kirk when she posts an image of her at the coffin side, why do you think that constitutes turning down the temperature?
You can't turn down the temperature on your own. The president of the United
You
States is
inflame the
not
temperature.
able
You're
to-
mocking
No,
his
it's
widow.
already inflamed.
You're
What are you
mocking his
talking
widow.
about? We've had multiple political assassinations over the past year. What do you mean it's turning up the temperature?
Why did you
to
mock
fight
his
someone
widow?
Online
Ever.
because
Why
she's
did you
being
mock his
wielded
widow?
as because she's being used as a political weapon right now
Wow.
for conservatives to continue their fight. What do you mean? Wow, she's literally doing
Her husband
recruitment
just got
ads
murdered.
on email. Yeah, and she's using it to drive up recruitment for
And
a
you
political
can't even
movement.
condemn the murder. You won't
The
condemn
president
it.
can't even tell his side
You're
to
so
turn the temperature
deranged
down.
about Trump that you
are
cannot condemn the
unhinged.
murder
It is such a
because you're
joke,
waiting
and
for
you guys
Donald
sit
Trump
here
to
and
say
make money
something.
off of it. It's
All right, let me bring
crazy
in
to
let me
me
bring
that
in Jack.
Republicans can't
Let me
do
bring
it.
in let me bring in
What a
Jack
joke of the
Posobiec.
world.
I gotta
And there
say,
will be there's still no answer to that question, Piers. You can't say
Which question?
Why can't Donald Trump simply go on TV and say we all need to turn it down,
Fine.
like Biden could, like Obama could,
Fine.
like the Clintons could, like Kamala could. Why
Fine.
not?
Why can't you condemn the murder
See,
of Charlie
it's
Kirk?
unbelievable. I'm not the president
Why
of the United
can't
States.
you
Can't answer that
condemn
question.
the
It's
murder of
unbelievable.
Charlie Kirk?
Unbelievable to me.
Why can't you condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Because it wasn't my side that caused it. It should
Yes,
be the
it
one that
was.
is driving up
It
the
actually
rhetoric. You
was
don't
your
know
side
it's
that
not even
caused
true.
it.
This
It was
an
your
18
side.
This guy was raised in a white
He
Christian
was a
household,
radicalized
in a Christian
leftist
state.
ideology.
He wasn't radicalized by leftism at all. You have no proof of that whatsoever.
That's what
Just
the
like one that killed
investigators are
Melissa
saying.
Was a conservative, just like the people that firebombed Shapiro's house was a conservative, just like all the J6ers were
He was not a
conservatives, just like the
conservative,
Proud
he was
Boys
a
were conservatives.
pro-Palestinian activist
Every
out of
single one of
Harrisburg.
every single one of these people. Oh, it's Jack Posobiec, what the author of Unhuman, another person that Charlie's put a good one, dude.
Well, I'll give you one last chance, Destiny, to condemn the murder of Charlie
Yes, you are
Kirk.
acting like an
Why,
unhuman.
why can't I hear Donald Trump
you were against
condemn
humanity.
violence
So,
in this
all
country?
right, you
Why
won't
can't I
condemn
hear
it. Okay,
I
we've all
can't hear it.
heard.
That's insane
We've
to
all
me.
heard you repeatedly refuse to
And
condemn
we've
it.
heard Donald Trump refuse to condemn
Jack
it too. But for some
Posobiec.
reason, the leftists on YouTube are a bigger deal. Unbelievable.
Yeah, what's incredible is you don't have the basic humanity to condemn it. You'd rather taunt his widow. I find that sickening. Jack Posobiec.
I find it sickening that when people are getting killed in the country, the president of the United States on Fox and Friends, when they're begging him, what do you say to your followers that want revenge? He says, I don't know, all the elections are rigged. It's the radical Democrats. That's insane to me. And then the fixation is, well, who on Twitter and YouTube isn't condemning the violence?
All right, Jack Posobiec.
You have a great example here of the type of cancer I'm talking about, where when you present direct information, they refuse, they obfuscate, they refute, they say it's not true, they lie. You could see from the bullet casings, you could see from postings, you could see from everything out there that it's very clear what happened here. This is the same people who supported President Trump almost getting assassinated twice last year, Cory Carpentore being assassinated
by conservatives
last year in a situation. Again, see, just lies. That's all they do. They talk over. They don't even let you give a chance to speak. And something needs to be done, Piers. Something absolutely needs to be done. This ideology should be shamed, humiliated, driven from the public discourse. I mean, you've got people who have completely dissociated with humanity because all they care about are clicks and YouTube streams and likes. Go to the casket. Go to the gravesite. Go talk to the widow. You know, I don't even know how to discuss this with someone who's completely lost all touch with reality.
Yeah, I mean, Anna.
What's Jack's answer to why can't the president say we should all be less violent?
Right. Because you can't even condemn the cold-blooded execution of Charlie
Donald Trump
Kirk.
turns on Destiny
I don't think you're in the position to
says,
demand anything from anybody.
On YouTube, that's how I'm going to take my.
You're
my
not in any position
really?
to condemn anybody for anything. You won't condemn a cold-blooded
He's the president
murder.
of the United States. He's the president of the United States. No one here can answer that question.
Basic humanity says
why
the murder
Donald Trump,
was
the
horrific.
Can't say
Why can't
all
you
of us
say
need
it?
to be less violent.
Why can't you
Democrats
say
have been
it,
saying
Destiny?
for over a decade.
To say the murder was horrific and unacceptable.
Why can't Donald Trump say it?
You can't do it, can
Why
you?
hear any words for Donald Trump?
All right, Anna
What do you have for
Kasperin.
Donald Trump? Nothing exactly.
Anna Kasperin, to me, this is what I'm talking about, that I think there is an element of the left, the hard woke left, that have completely lost their minds. If you are not able to just outright simply condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk, and if you cannot stop yourself from mocking his grieving widow, you are sick, as I've just seen from Destiny. It's a sick
thing is
mindset.
weaponizing a widow's grief to try to do recruitment for your political party. That's probably one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. She's showing up in emails for recruitment drives for TPUSA.
Destiny? What did you think the assassination of a political figure would do? What did you think the outcome was going to be? What did you think the outcome was? And by the way,
are you asking
really,
me for the pragmatic political outcome?
behavior?
Or are you asking
hold
me
on,
for?
Let me. Hey, how about take it easy on the Adderall? Take it easy on the Adderall, and let me answer the question that Piers asked me.
You must have been really bullied today, I
my
guess.
Behavior,
Let Anna speak, please.
My behavior is not reliant on how anyone else behaves. Every morning I wake up and I make decisions about how I choose to react or respond to things. I don't wake up in the morning, check what Donald Trump has to say, and then base my own personal behavior on his behavior. I agree with you in that it would be very helpful to have the leader of this country want to turn the temperature down. And he hasn't done that. I agree with you on that. But that doesn't change the way I choose to respond to what's going on. The idea of mocking a woman who is now a widow with 2 young children who witnessed her husband get shot in the neck and bleed out to death. How could you mock that? What is wrong with you? I just don't understand it. That's it. I don't understand it. I don't understand you, Destiny. You have so much hatred in your heart, and at the same time, you
it's
judge
such a simple thing.
others
If you're
as
going to
hateful.
weaponize somebody's grief against the other party, well, then of course people have a right to fight back against it. I think that she has every right to grieve in whatever way she wants, but when that grief is going to be weaponized to do recruitment, political recruitment, and further radicalization of the other side, then of course you not only have the ability to mock it, I think you have the obligation to mock it. It's insane.
Let me understand. Let me understand your argument. So since others are using her grief to politically recruit, you think that it's okay to mock her specifically?
Since others
How
are
does that
using
make any
her grief,
sense?
she's the one who gave a 17-minute speech on TV where she talked about good versus evil. She's the one showing up in
Destiny, let me
TPUSA
explain,
ads to 1 or 2 days
something
after.
To you. If someone assassinated my husband, I would not be able to have the level of composure she had during that speech. I would be out for blood. I understand why she's angry and why she said the things that she said. Okay, you need to understand what being a human is, what it's like to actually lose someone that you love, that you chose to spend your life with, that you chose to raise children with, a person who was violently and viciously assassinated like that. This is why I've moved
That's fine.
away
And when
from
something yeah, I know, yes,
identifying
because
as
you got bullied online. It's so funny. It's so funny
are
that you just
so
said that you
embarrassing on
don't
the
think about
left.
how other people act to define your behavior. Your entire political ideology now is somehow defined by the people that were mean to you on Twitter.
No,
if somebody
it's
cares
not.
about somebody who's
No,
grieving,
I understood
then you tell that
what
person,
the flaws
you
on
tell
the
that
left
person,
happen to
hey,
be. The
maybe you
weakness
should
in their
step back
arguments.
for a couple of
No,
weeks.
no, it's
Maybe
not
you should
about
take
the
some
way
time
I
to
get
grieve.
treated.
You don't
I
say,
get
hey,
treated
let's
like
throw a
crap from
camera in
both
front
sides
of
of
you
the
and have
political
you do
aisle.
mass recruitment for our political party while everyone over here is calling for civil war. It's unhinged. When you've got people like Matt Walsh and the Daily Wire and the
we're
president
talking
of the
to a
United States
guy
calling
who
for
said
civil
he'd be
war.
okay with his own parents getting killed if they went to that Trump rally where that assassination
Yeah,
attempt
and we're talking
happened.
to a
There's
woman
no
who went
reasoning
on and
with
did
you,
the whole
Destiny.
conservative media
There's
outlet
no,
with
there's
Tucker
no
Carlson
reasoning
and
with
Glenn
you.
Beck and had
Okay.
nothing bad to say whatsoever. I know where your bread is buttered. I know where
And
you're
it was
making your money
great.
from.
I had
Okay, that's
awesome
great.
conversations.
And
I don't regret it
I
at
know,
all.
that's great.
I also had
And
a
keep up with the
conversation
personal
with Jack
attacks 'cause you're
Posobiec
so
on her
brain
take. It was
broken.
awesome.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Jack,
what
the guy over here that gets
democracy is
paid
about.
by
Having an
Russia that
exchange
lies
of
about everything that
ideas.
comes out of his
Yeah.
mouth. Yeah,
All right,
great.
let me
That's a
bring
good
in-
one.
let me
Very
bring
I don't
in-
agree
smart
with
guy.
him on everything, but at
Still
least we
to
can
this
have
day,
dialogue.
Anna,
No one
Anna,
on
you're
here can
completely
call
right,
that
by the
dialogue.
way.
Sure, it's
Anna
something
is
right now.
completely
Charlie
right.
didn't it?
And the irony of Charlie Kirk is that he led the way in going in to debate with people who hated him, and he would
No,
try and
he
have
didn't.
respectful
Charlie Kirk
dialogue.
beat up
well,
on college students.
unlike
That's all
you,
he did.
Destiny.
Let's be
Let
real.
me bring
Unlike
Andrew
me,
Wilson
I'm
in.
So do
arguing,
you.
aren't I? Yeah.
Let me
What do
bring
you
in
mean?
Andrew
So do you.
Wilson.
So do you. You beat up on college students. You go on a college tour.
Charlie
You're going on a
Kirk is
college
trying to
tour
hold
right
higher
now
level
to
debates
beat
and you
up
guys
on
killed him.
college students. What are you talking about, Destiny? That's what you're doing right this second is going on a college tour to go beat up on college students. By the way, can I just ask you a question?
I don't
yes or no?
exclusively beat up on college.
Can you actually answer?
I debated half
Can you
the
actually
damn
answer?
What do you
Hang
mean
on,
I
calm
beat up-
down.
What do you mean
I
beat
just
up on
got one
college students?
question. I got one question for you, and I want you to actually answer it. Are you glad Charlie Kirk is dead?
No, I don't think anybody in this country should be dying to political violence. It's insane. The past 5 years
Then
in this
just-
country has been crazy. But the reality
So
is,
then-
until
so
conservatives,
then why did you
have
say that to your co-host
until conservatives-
that Trump
until
deserved the bullet?
conservatives
Why did you
have
tell him
to
that?
say until conservatives have to say, hey, we all need to be less violent, there's no purpose in Democrats doing it, because every time Democrats disavow, you further entrench your guys' delusional beliefs that all the violence is coming on the left. Donald Trump can go on TV, he can say, Proud Boys, stand back and stand by. They can go on Parler and say, we heard you. They can go to the Capitol and break in and try to insurrect. They can get convicted in front of a jury, and then Donald Trump can pardon them, and we can come out and go, hey guys, why aren't Democrats disavowing violence? And pretend that the problem is coming from the left. Democrats do a disservice to this country by disavowing
hang
violence
on, hang on.
constantly
Let me
when the
respond
president of the
quickly.
United States
Let me
won't
respond
go on
quickly.
TV and say all of
Let
us
me
need to
respond
be less
quickly,
violent. How
Destiny.
easy
So
would that
the
be?
thing is, why did you say to your co-host
Yeah, keep focusing
that
on me.
the
Keep
bullet
focusing on
that
me.
the bullet
I'm not here to
that
play-
the bullet was for Trump? Why did you say to your co-host that the best place for the bullet was Trump? Why did you say that?
Why did Donald Trump call
It's a
everyone fascist?
whataboutism.
If that's what's causing people to
Whataboutism.
kill? Yeah,
I'm
that's what
asking
you're
you a
doing right
question.
Now. Whataboutism. The
I can't be
conversation is about
whataboutism
what I
if
say.
it's my
The
question,
conversation is,
Destiny.
why won't Donald Trump disavow violence in the United
Answer the
States?
question.
All right,
Why
why
did you
don't we
say
do
that?
this? Why don't we
Why did
do
you say
this?
that?
Why don't we do this
Such an
before I
easy-
cut
such an
mics?
easy question.
Because you don't care.
Destiny,
You don't care that Kirk's dead. Just
Destiny,
be honest,
allow
you fuck.
Andrew,
Just be honest, you fuck.
allow Andrew to repeat his question and let him ask the question. Then you answer it, okay, Andrew?
No, I want to hear the other
No,
side
no.
first.
Let him
See what
ask
I
the
mean?
question.
Donald Trump
Let him
disavow violence
ask
in
the
this
question, Destiny, and then you answer
Destiny,
it. Andrew.
Destiny told his co-host when asked point blank if he wanted the bullet to kill Trump, that the worst thing that could have happened was the bullet missing. He said this to Pisco. I watched it. Okay, this guy's an obfuscation machine. And if you know what else, Destiny, why should we believe you? I think you are glad Kirk is dead. And all of your tweets seem to prove that. And you would have been happy if Trump was assassinated. You've made that very clear. So why not just be truthful for once in your fucking life and say the truth, that you don't care that Kirk is dead, and you're actually probably glad he is. Isn't that really what's true?
I don't want anybody in this country to die to political violence. I don't think in the United States of America that should be happening. I don't know why it's so hard for the president to say the same. I think it'd be the easiest thing in the world as a president. Biden did it for 4 years. That's why everything was way cooler when he was here, like in terms of temperature. The Clintons have no problem saying it. Barack Obama has no problem saying it. Kamala Harris has come out and said it. Every Democratic lawmaker and leader has basically come out and said it. But for some reason on the Republican side, it's just civil war, civil war, civil war. And the Republican president of the United States, who has presided over more violence politically in this country, more large protests than any president in all of U.S. history, for some reason can't bring himself to say, all of us need to calm down. And
So
until
did
that
Trump
happens,
deserve
there's no
the
reason for
bullet?
anyone allowed to say it.
Did Trump
This is-
deserve
well,
the
yeah, This
bullet?
is all you care about are the political hit jobs.
Just
It's
answer
actually
the
insane
question,
to me.
bro.
It's
Did
so
Trump
insane
deserve the
to me.
bullet?
Did Donald
Did
Trump
he deserve
disavow
the
violence
bullet?
on his side ever? Did Donald Trump
Answer
disavow
the
violence on his
question.
side
Did
ever?
Trump deserve the bullet?
You can't answer the question. We're here to play.
No, bro,
to
it's
find
my turn
tweets
to ask
and
the
YouTube
question.
video
It's your
clips.
turn to answer.
It's
Did
YouTube video
Trump deserve
clips.
the
and it's-
bullet?
Did Trump disavow violence in this country ever?
Did he deserve the bullet? Yes, he's
Answer my
disavowed
question, I'll
violence.
answer yours.
But again, I just did. Now your turn. Now your
Not just
turn.
on the radical
It's
left.
your turn.
Did Donald Trump?
Did
then
Trump
no,
deserve the bullet?
I never said that. No, I never said that. No.
Okay, except you did to your co-host.
No,
You
I
said,
didn't. Oh, wait. When did
your
Donald Trump
exact
disavow?
words-
Wait. When did
You-
Donald Trump
your
disavow
exact
violence
words
in this
to your
country?
co-host, you lying sack of shit. If he wanted
I'm the lying
to
sack
kill
of
Trump,
shit?
the
No
worst
way.
thing that could have
Wait,
happened
Donald Trump
was the
disavowed
bullet
all
missing.
political violence. And
That's what you said,
this is,
bro.
Yeah. And this is where when
You're
you're
the
putting
biggest lying sack of
YouTubers, when
shit,
you're putting
bro.
YouTubers and tweeters on the same level as the president of the United States, this is why conservatives are absolutely brain broken when it comes to violence in this country. And that's why it'll continue.
But
There'll be more
Destiny-
deaths.
but Destiny-
Maybe it'll be me at the next one. Who
Destiny-
knows? There'll be
Well,
more
I do
people
agree
who
you
die,
want it
and
to
you
continue.
guys are all
Destiny-
going to turn around and be like, I can't believe it. What's going on?
Destiny-
What's happening here?
Okay,
Yeah.
Destiny, if you care so much about political violence in America, why don't you lead the way yourself without
can't,
mentioning
because
anybody
one
else?
side-
Why don't
because
you?
one side-
Why don't you, Destiny, right now just outright condemn the murder of Charlie Kirk?
Because we've been doing that for a decade. One side can't,
You can't
turn
do it, can
down
you?
the temperature.
You can't
the other
do
side
it.
can't turn down the temperature. If Donald Trump can't, then the left shouldn't until he does.
Got it. Okay,
Republicans
you don't wanna do it.
need accountability
Okay,
for
Jack-
their actions. They need some responsibility for the insanity.
He had
they
it coming,
caused.
didn't
Even though
he,
you
Destiny?
take none
He had
yourself.
it coming.
Let me bring in Jack Posobiec.
We absolutely,
All
Democrats
right,
will take
that's enough,
accountability when
Destiny.
it's their
I'll bring
fault.
in Jack Posobiec.
Yeah,
Jack.
okay. Nice. Both sides it.
Jack.
Yeah.
What is your response to this?
I mean, Piers, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You know, this type of ideology where you've got someone who's willing to mock Erica, who's been standing strong for her family, for her children, who's just, she will never be able to grow old with Charlie. She will never be able to be with them again, have more children, to have grandchildren, to have those memories, to raise them. It's all gone. Every single moment of that future that they had was gone because someone fired a bullet at Charlie Kirk that said, "Hey, fascist, catch." And now you have people celebrating it. And when you ask people
That's
about
not even
it,
the
they
bullet
say,
that was fired.
"Oh,
How are you lying
oh,
about this?
Shut
even?
up, Destiny.
Holy
Shut
shit!
up.
You're so
Shut
shameless,
up.
dude. Oh my god! You don't even cite the right bullet. You're such a disgusting
Piers.
piece of shit. Holy fuck!
What a
Here's-
pedantic point.
Are we-
what a
are we
It's not
even gonna do
pedantic.
this?
This guy's a fucking
It's
professional
total
liar.
pedantry.
It's
Epic
total
and base.
pedantry. Total
This guy
even gonna
probably.
do
I would like to let
Jesus.
Jack. I would like to let Jack finish his point, please.
Yeah,
and
his
and
rant
they'll
here,
claim
yeah.
there's no leftist connection. They'll claim there's no there and then go so far as to lie and say there's some kind of Christian conservative connection when you could see the writing on the bullet casings. And so you know these are very common symbols associated whatever. The point is, right, it should be very, very clear. Are we connected with our humanity or are we not? And some people are willing to do that. Anna's been willing to do that. We've done shows together. They've been fine. They've been good. We've jousted. We've done the back and forth. Destin and I in the past have had shows together where before he kind of took this turn. And you think there are people who can just be willing to stand up for humanity.
You know, Jack, it reminds me a bit of the journey I've gone on, very different circumstances, but the Israel-Hamas war. The reason I asked everybody on the pro-Palestinian side for months after the war started, do you condemn what Hamas did, is I think it was very enlightening as to the humanity of the person by how they responded. If their immediate response was, of course I do, the mass murder of civilians on October the 7th was a horrendous atrocity, then we can move on to an intellectually honest debate. If they refuse to condemn what Hamas did, it's a completely different debate. And similarly, right now, I feel if you can't condemn a lot of what the IDF are doing, frankly, it's my opinion, in Gaza, then the same thing. If you're unequivocally like, it's all fine with 20,000 plus kids being killed, then I've got a problem with that too. But I do think you've got to try and maintain in all of these debates a modicum of humanity about people who are actually being killed. And what is terrifying about the mindset of a lot of people on the woke left have seen since Charlie Kirk's death is the brazen glee that they're taking to his murder. And then when I see even Destiny, who's a very well-followed person on the internet, well-known, when Destiny, frankly, if you can't bring yourself just to say the murder was horrific and should never have happened, it's a very simple sentence. It's just basic humanity. It really makes me despair for where everything is going, because it's indicative of the mindset of, I can't give an inch to my political opponents, therefore I lose my humanity. How can that be right?
Because you can't give an inch to political opponents that won't recognize or acknowledge anything they've done is wrong. It's all it's done is gotten us here. This is where we're at because of that exact mindset. Will any of the conservatives here acknowledge the conservative that murdered Melissa Hortman and her husband and shot the other senator in Minnesota?
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
That it was a conservative shooter? That it was a conservative shooter?
I don't know the details on that particular case. If I did, and it turned out that it was the case, of course, I would say that such violence should be disavowed. Thing is, you can't hold your entire moral standard based on what you think Trump is doing or not doing. What does that have to do with you, Destiny? It has nothing to do with you. You can easily just say, you can lead by example and say, let's all tone down the violence.
You can't lead by example.
That's what you
I'm not
want,
the president
right?
of the United States. That's what Democrats have been doing.
Wait,
for
you
the
can't
last
lead by
decade.
example because you're not the president? That's the stupidest thing I've heard
if
today.
one side wants to fight and the other side doesn't, then you're going to fight. One side can't decide not to fight, but the other
That
side
makes no
decided to.
sense. What does that have
What
to
do you
do
mean
with
it
you?
makes no
You
sense?
can-
If
you
some
can
guy comes up to
easily-
you to
you
fight,
can easily
and the
just
other
say it
side
now,
says, I
Destiny.
don't want to, you don't really have the choice there.
Lead
That's
by
how fighting
example,
works.
then. Lead by
You
example.
can't lead by
and show
example.
us.
That's called dying.
You can.
Actually,
Right
I
now.
thought,
Do
I
it
thought,
right
I
now.
actually
Do
thought,
it right
I
now.
actually
That's the party
thought,
of
let me
self-defense.
jump in.
'Cause you're actually happy
Let me
about
jump
it,
in
Destiny.
here.
Just be honest, you're happy
I actually
about it.
felt that Anna hit the nail on the head here, which is she did not need to wait for Donald Trump to comment on this to make her own mind up about what had happened. That is intellectual honesty, right? Yes, it may have been somebody that she totally disagreed with on many issues. The simple, humane thing to do with any event like this is to ask yourself, how do I personally feel about it? Not what does Donald Trump think about it, or what does Joe Biden think about it, or what does Timbuktu think about it? It's what do I personally feel about this? It didn't take me very long, Destiny, to understand that I felt repulsed by the execution of somebody in cold blood with his wife and 2 young children there watching. It's a human reaction. I don't need to know what Donald Trump thinks about it at all. I don't understand why you need to wait for him before your own
I
humanity
don't need to
kicks
wait
in.
for anybody. No, you're not asking how we feel about it. You're asking what the public statements should be. And the public statements should be the President of the United States.
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No,
You're
I'm
asking
not.
me for a public statement
I'm
right
asking,
now.
where
You
is
think
your
it's great watching a
humanity? You
colleague
can't
getting
just
murdered?
say the murder
Where is
was
your humanity,
wrong.
peers? You guys are playing into this exactly. I think you probably know it. I think Cornell was right about this. You know where your bread is buttered as well. You guys play into this. It's insane to me that the President of the United States can't say, hey, all of us need to be less violent. We all need to calm the fuck down. That the President of the United States can't say this, but you will endlessly scour Twitter and YouTube for leftists to bring on and say, don't you guys disavow the violence? It's absolutely absurd to me.
You know, Cornel West should have stayed in his seat. We were debating free speech, actually, and whether
You're not debating free
and
speech.
whether
It's not
well, let
even
me
an equivalent
finish. Let me
conversation,
finish,
Piers.
and whether
It's
the
insane.
overuse of words like Hitler, Nazis, and fascists was actually empowering deranged young minds to think they were battling actual new Hitler, Nazis, and fascists. And actually, when Andrew pointed out to Cornell that he had used the phrase neo-fascist about Trump, that's when Cornell decided he couldn't take part in the debate anymore, when he was reminded of something he had said. He didn't try and deny it. He just said, I don't want to have this debate, and left.
Piers, how long have you been in the United States, like following our politics?
Over 20 years, I've lived and worked in America.
Okay, if you've lived and worked in America, I grew up as a conservative listening to Rush Limbaugh and to Glenn Beck and to Billy Cunningham and to Sean Hannity. You're going to sit here and pretend like Democrats are the ones that started the name calling? I heard them call Obama and the Clinton
I didn't say
socialists
that.
and communists.
When did I say
I
that?
heard them call... I'm just saying, why are we pretending that some people...
I'm saying, why did Cornel West
household?
Why would Cornel West walk out on a debate when we're
minutes ago.
literally talking about the importance of speech? Makes no sense to me.
If speech is important, then the president should exercise it more cautiously.
So should you.
And Republicans have been. You can't stop.
You've got millions of followers, and you think it's fine to show them you're mocking a widow.
You cannot choose for your opponent not to fight you.
Fine.
If Republicans won't turn down the rhetoric, then who cares? Donald Trump shouldn't have used the rhetoric that led her to being killed. 2 days before she dies,
Who cares that you mocked a grieving widow?
This is all. It's just virtue signaling. You guys are excited about it. You guys love it.
How is it? How is it that you said this guy can't possibly be a leftist?
It's exciting to you. It's insane to me.
Yeah.
No.
How is it that you said this guy can't be a leftist because he grew up in a white Christian household when you grew up in a white Christian household by your own admission just now and you're a fucking leftist, Destiny?
I'm 36 years old. This guy was 22 and he lived at home.
What does that have to do with anything?
Life.
What does that have to do with anything?
I had 20 years to separate myself from my parents' ideology. I didn't live with them still. Jesus.
So 6 months, 1 year, 20 years? Why does it matter how long it took to separate? You just got to say it was impossible, and you yourself are a leftist who grew up in a Christian conservative household, dude. You're the worst hypocrite I've ever seen.
Hold on, I'm sorry. You think that a 22-year-old has as much time to separate himself from the ideology that he grew up with as a 36-year-old?
Didn't say
yeah, you just made the comparison, dipshit. Of course you did. It's not.
Let me ask you.
Look at you.
Point.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in. Let me ask Jack. Jack, you know the Kirk family well. You've been around the Kirk family, I think, since this appalling murder has happened. When you hear Destiny saying, who cares, about the fact that he openly, publicly mocked Erica Kirk, a grieving widow, within literally a day or two of her husband being murdered, how does that make you feel as a friend of the family?
It's very angry, Piers, And here's the thing is she's seeing all of it. She's going to see all of it. Her kids are going to watch this video one day. It's just, that's sort of the nature of reality now. They will see all of this and they will see the reaction. And I just hope that those of us who knew Charlie, worked with Charlie, who knew Charlie beyond the, TikToks and short videos can also be there for those kids as they grow up to let them know who their dad was.
And kids are going to grow up and watch old episodes of Piers Morgan uncensored. How performative is this? Is everybody here? Did we all get like a script before the show? What?
They watch a lot of old episodes of the JFK.
Embarrassing. You make the left look so bad, and you don't even realize it. You are seriously so embarrassing.
Okay, yeah.
God.
You can talk to your best friend.
You really
Glenn
are.
Beck about
I mean,
it
like,
later,
you
have another
feel
30-minute conversation about it, Anna.
Maybe I will. Maybe I will talk to Glenn Beck about it. Oh, is that is that naughty? Is it
how
naughty?
many conversations have you had with Nick?
You
had more conversations with Nick than anyone.
So mean. Oh no, not the meanies on Twitter.
How many more lawsuits are you going to face from women that you allegedly secretly recorded during intimate moments, Destiny? I can't believe anyone takes you seriously.
Are you really?
You're disgusting.
You're
embarrassing, and you should be shunned from public life with your disgusting treatment of all sorts of people, including young left-wing girls, women
You're turning
that you
more
victimized
blonde
allegedly.
Right now in the window.
That's who you
like
are.
2 shades away from
You're embarrassing. You embarrass the left. You're the type of person who pushes people away from the left. Make sure you understand that. You're embarrassing. There's no morality with you. There's no grounding values. There's no principles. All you want is attention, 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 attention. That's all you want.
Yeah, of course.
All you want. Endless attention. Say disgusting, provocative garbage.
Another friendly conversation with another mainstream conservative commentator about how you're such a leftist, but those people on Twitter are so mean.
Having a debate or dialogue doesn't automatically mean that you agree with everything they have to say. It means you're coming
together. No, it's when you sit down and you're
exchanging ideas and
then
debating them.
They have to say.
No, I don't agree with everything they have to say. What are you talking about?
Yeah, you do.
I don't agree with everything they have to say. But I'm an adult.
When you sit down and all of your criticisms
have a mature debate or conversation.
And you have no disagreements about anything on the right, that's called
agreement.
I do have
criticisms for the left. I have tons of criticisms for the right. Tons of criticisms. I'm obviously
they don't seem to come out
pro-choice,
much
for
when you're
instance.
talking to your
I obviously have a
conservative
huge
friends. Oh, the big guns,
problem
yeah.
with the unending, unmitigated support for Israel, regardless of the genocide they're engaging in. I have all sorts of disagreements with the right. That doesn't mean I'm going to dehumanize them and cheer on the slaughter of my fellow Americans because we have disagreements on politics. You're
I
embarrassing.
wish anybody here had the same energy for the president of the United States, but that's good. I'm glad you guys are focused where it really counts on Twitter and
Dude,
YouTube,
you have
which is what the
like
conservatives want you to be
TDS,
focused
like
on, you know?
you are like the prototype
TDS,
of
yeah,
TDS.
there it
It's
comes, yeah.
unbelievable.
The
You wake
TDS,
up every
yes.
morning and you decide your
Yes,
behavior is going
true.
to hinge on Trump.
Tell me
Well,
more about
who
the
are you as
dancing
an individual?
Israelis and Building
God, have
7
a little bit
and
of
how
humanity.
the Jews all knew about 9/11
You're a
and they all want us to go to war
You're
in the Middle East. Yeah, of course.
sociopath.
I'm
Let me
I
a
bring
never
in-
once said the
Okay.
Jews
Let me
were
bring
behind
in Jack
9/11.
again.
Not
Let me-
once. Don't make things up, you disgusting prick.
Let me
That's
bring
okay,
in
don't
Jack
worry.
again. Let me bring in Jack again. Jack, Peter Navarro earlier was talking about directly to Elon Musk about, in his view, the urgent need for Elon Musk to detoxify X, given that he owns the platform, and that he blamed X for a lot of the toxicity in public discourse. What do you feel about that?
Well, you know, I think there's obviously a tension between, you know, standing and wanting free dialogue and freedom of speech, but also maintaining a line beyond calling for violence and calling for direct violence or direct criminal activity. So, you know, X in its original Twitter fashion, if you go all the way back to, you know, 2012, 2010, when it was really getting going, they used to pretty much the main things that were banned or would get taken down or get accounts banned were posting of direct addresses of people, so doxing, or posting direct threats to violence. And so I think there needs to be that line set of this is acceptable discourse, this is a back and forth, but the idea that a direct call for violence should be banned, I think that's something that I would support.
Andrew, what do you feel about the social media aspect of all this? Do you think that it is culpable to a degree in the surging toxicity of debate about these things?
Look, social media is a tool. And what social media has done right now is it's allowed us to get a glimpse into leftist ideology, finally. Yeah. And we get to see the insane madness that was always there. And the fact of the matter is that, you know, here on the panel right this second, you have a guy who celebrated a multitude of these types of things, including telling his co-host that basically Trump, the worst place that the assassin could have put the bullet was anywhere other than Trump. I mean, I got the clip of him doing it. And so the thing is like what we've noted now, these people are glad. They're glad. They're happy. They love it. I go on TikTok all the time and I debate with these people. It's very clear that leftists are glad that this happened and that they're going to do everything they can to promote more of it. And we're supposed to base our behavior on what the president does or doesn't say. What, like if Biden, if I had Biden derangement syndrome, I couldn't still come out and condemn political violence? Of course I could. But the thing is
I'm
that
just curious. Anybody have any words for the fact that Charlie Kirk said that Biden should have been executed?
Leftists collectively can't seem to do that, though. I don't know why they can't seem to do that.
No, that was fine when Charlie Kirk said that. Okay,
Anna,
gotcha.
Anna, I want to mention something to you, which I was going to talk to Cornel West
Charlie
about.
Kirk was a moderate. He was more moderate than a local electrician.
Yeah, nice pivot.
He was more moderate than a local electrician, and you know
he said
that.
He wanted,
by the
he
way.
said he
you
wanted
know
to see Biden. He
you
said he
have
wanted to see Biden
debated with
executed.
the worst,
he
and
said
I've
he
seen
wanted
you do
to
it.
see
You know.
Biden executed. Okay, give me a
No,
fucking
that's
break.
not what he
don't care about
said.
any of this
That's
stuff.
not what he
This is a
said. He said
performance.
if you violate
This is performative
criminality
outrage.
in criminal
This is
laws,
performative outrage.
then that will be the case.
Biden
All right, I want to
wasn't
ask
found have
Anna.
There's not
violated
what's
criminal law. That was
performative.
just-
What's performative?
Oh, wait, so I say, oh well, you know, I think that guy was a criminal. Therefore, the execution is okay. Somehow that makes everything fine with no investigation, no criminal charges.
You say all the time
Give me a break.
that your political opponent should be in jail and highest extent of the law. You say it all the time. What are you talking about?
Sorry, no, that's Donald
saying
Trump.
the word
He's one who's
performative doesn't mean
activating
anything.
The National Guard right now.
Oh,
and
it's just
starting bullshit
performative.
investigations into
Oh,
every
that's just
political
performative.
opponent.
All right, I want to bring Anna
You're
back
just
in.
being performative. Talk about the rhetoric
I want to bring
You're
Anna
just
back
being
in.
performative.
Okay, I want to bring Anna back in because the president-elect of the Oxford Union, probably the most premier debating society in the world, I've done it several times myself, George Aberonye, reportedly posted he did post several comments in a WhatsApp group appearing to celebrate the murder of Charlie Kirk. One said, Charlie Kirk got shot. Let's fucking go. Another one was, I think, LOL. This guy is going to be the president of the Oxford Union Debating Society, and yet he is celebrating the murder of somebody he literally debated himself in the Oxford Union in May. I found that terrifying. I mean, he shouldn't still be in the job, because how can you possibly be the head of a debating society when you think the way to debate with people is murder them if they don't agree with you? But again, the gleeful celebration. This is supposedly one of the brightest students in Britain. You know, president of the new Oxford Union Debating Society.
He can't be that bright if he's not considering what a political assassination could potentially lead to. Because where does this end? And that's like one of my biggest issues with a portion of the left. Their inability to see past the current moment, right? You're celebrating it, but what's the long-term goal here? Is the long-term goal to just kind of descend to an environment of endless political assassinations and violence? And if we're going to have the left go up against the right in terms of violence, in terms of bloodshed, in terms of shootings, I don't know. I would just venture to say that the right is probably going to do a better job in, taking people out than the left is. This is just a really disgusting, sick ideology, and we need to move away from it. And again, I want to emphasize your personal behavior, the way you choose to behave and respond to things on a day-to-day basis has an impact. Okay, be the change you want to see in the world. So when you have a huge audience, and that audience of young people who look up to you, who feel inspired by you, hear you essentially minimize political violence or even make excuses for it or deflect by blaming Trump for everything, well, you're essentially indoctrinating people to support and normalize political violence. We can't be doing that. I don't care how people behave on the right. That's not going to have an impact on how I personally choose to behave. I want to be better than that. I want to preach dialogue, okay? Debate, have these conversations. And Charlie Kirk, the last debate he and I had, Destiny would like you to believe that I agree with the right on everything. I don't agree with the right on everything. We debated about whether or not you have to have children in order to care about the future of this country. So we have a debate, and it's fine. He has a right to his opinions. I have the right to mine. If you care about democracy, the democratic process is reliant on having these types of conversations and reliant on not resorting to violence because you're unable to articulate your arguments effectively against the other side. That's what I see this assassination as. Again, it was cowardice. It was disgusting. It was cold-blooded murder, and no one should be celebrating it, and no one should be mocking the family members of Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, very well said. I just want to thank all the panel for joining me. Jack, I want to sort of say to you, I can tell by your demeanour today how profoundly impacted you've been by your friend's murder. God. And I'm just very sorry to you as his friend.
Shut up, Coomer.
That you've had to endure what must have been a hellish week. And
actual ghouls.
I'd like to send my very best to the family who I know you talked to. And I'm sorry for some of the things you've had to hear from Destiny in this debate. But thank you for coming on despite what you've been going through. So I appreciate it.
Thank you, Piers. I'll convey that to them.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the panel. Thank you. Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. The only boss around here is me. If you enjoy our show, we ask for only one simple thing. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow Piers Morgan Uncensored on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in return, we will continue our mission to inform, irritate and entertain. And we'll do it all for free. Independent, uncensored media has never been more critical, and we couldn't do it without you.